Welcome to today's presentation on philosophy and principles of independent living in an assisted living residence. My name is Elizabeth Ragsdale, and I will be guiding you through today's presentation. Today's objectives include the definition of independent living versus assisted living, naming important principles for quality of life for assisted living residents, identifying factors associated with transitioning from independent living to assisted living, learning signs and symptoms of health conditions common in the elderly population, learning why principles of independent living in an assisted living residence are important, and identifying things to assist residents in maintaining autonomy and independence. Before we dive deeper into our presentation comment, I ask you to take a moment and picture your grandmother. Imagine she has been living in the same home for the past 35 years and married to your grandfather for about 40 years. As the two of them have gotten older, their health has steadily declined. Grandma is now wheelchair bound. She can only stand to transfer. While she is alert and oriented, she has minimal use of her legs. She is capable in performing ADLs but has no ambulation. Your grandfather has suffered a major stroke. As he was her primary caretaker and her mode of transportation, Grandma cannot be left alone overnight. The family assists grandmother and starts bringing the idea up of transitioning to an independent or assisted living facility. As Grandma has already lost much of her independence due to her lack of ability to walk, she has become more depressed at the thought of leaving her home of 30 plus years. The family begins to tell her that it would be a transition into a different chapter of her life, and it could be a good thing. The family rallies and begins to ask her her opinions, her hobbies, her interests, and starts making appointments for visits on facilities that may be a good match. Grandma is brought to all of these appointments, and she is able to see the facilities for herself, what type of amenities they offer her, what her apartment or her room might be like, and what the culture is like in the facility. Grandma is involved in every step of the way, and the family witnesses her transition from in a depressed mode to one of more excitement at the opportunities that may lay ahead in the future. The family continues to involve Grandma and eventually finds an assisted living facility that will match both Grandma's needs and wants, and hopefully grandfather's. The definition of an independent living is simply any housing arrangement that's designed exclusively for older adults, typically those aged 55 and over. The definition of assisted living is care designed to help individuals who are not able to perform normal daily activities such as personal hygiene, housekeeping, and preparing meals, but who don't require 24-hour nursing care. For example, sometimes residents are able to keep track of their own medication routine, or they're able to do a few dishwashing activities in the kitchen sink. They can perform certain parts of their own daily routine. These assisted living communities are based on the principles of providing personalized care, service with dignity, encouraging independence, and promoting family involvement and connection with other residents. There are different types of assisted living communities. These can include apartments, small townhomes, individual rooms, specialized care communities, as seen with Alzheimer's, continuing care communities. So why is this important? Knowing the type of facility that you are at or the resident is at has a direct impact on the quality of life of the resident. The amenities that are offered, the social climate there is within all the residents and the staff, even something as simple as what meals are offered. The smallest thing in a daily routine can mean so much to our residents because they have such a limited capacity for experiencing new things, whether it's due to memory issues or mobility issues. So our small acts or small amenities within the facility have a very large impact. Let's take a look at the individual principles of independent living and how they can have an effect on our residents. Our first principle is demographics and health status. Is the resident able to afford a live-in caretaker? Are they bedbound? Do they require one-on-one care, or are they minimal assist? Is the resident using state funds for housing? Do they have any extra for any entertainment or outings within the facility? What type of health conditions does the resident live with? Are they tied to an oxygen machine? Are they paralyzed? Do they have lack of functioning of one of their arms due to a stroke? Do they lack the ability for clear communication as often seen after a stroke? If they are tied to an oxygen machine or they wheelchair dependent, how can that impact their activities of daily living? And how does that impact their ability to enjoy the fun side of life? Please take note that health conditions can have a significant impact on the quality of life of our residents. And it has been shown that functional variables of dependence in ADLs is associated with higher facility satisfaction. So what that means is how much are we as the staff having to get involved in the lives of our residents? Are we simply able to just wheel them into the bathroom if they're in a wheelchair and they're able to take care of their morning routines like brushing their teeth or putting makeup on? Or are we having to help with every little bit of their morning routine? Is the member able to pick out their outfit for the next day, and all we will be doing as the staff is assisting them in putting that clothing on? Any little nitpicky way that we can find for the resident to maintain their own autonomy and their own independence needs to be taken action on. We want to help enhance the quality of life with our residents, and by doing our little nitpicky inserts, that can happen. If we observe our residents and note their routines and note their preferences, then we can find ways to actually enhance their lives, whether it's wheeling them in the bathroom or helping them pick out their clothing for the next day. Something as simple as making sure that they have the correct silverware with their meals can have such a tremendous impact on the overall look of a member's quality of life within our facility. Our next principle is social climate and involvement. What this involves is actually what is offered activity-wise within the facility. So this could be anything from games to holiday celebrations to cocktail hour and barbecues or bonfires and just group outings in general. We want to make sure that we involve the family. Even just monthly family contact has been associated with higher life satisfaction with our residents. We can help make sure that we facilitate a strong connection with our resident and their loved ones. We can assist them in setting up weekly phone calls, daily phone calls, writing letters or cards, and even sometimes helping them set up a sort of FaceTime app so they can actually see their family and still maintain that connection if the family is far away. Another aspect that we need to look at is how well do the residents get along with each other and the staff. Not getting along with other residents can have a direct impact on depressive symptoms in our residents. We want to try and maintain as much of a copacetic environment for everyone as possible. However, we are human and conflicts are bound to arise. When that does happen, if it's between our residents, then the staff may need to play mediator. And this can involve us sitting down as a mediator with the individuals who are not getting along. We can have them write letters to one another. We can also just keep them separate if the conflict is bad enough. Another aspect of the conflict within a facility is, are residents comfortable enough coming forward if there's a conflict with a staff member? If a resident has a conflict incident with a staff member, who are they going to go to? Do they trust someone enough to come forward and say that something has happened and something went wrong? And a lot of times those are teaching moments for staff members. That doesn't mean the resident is always right, and sometimes there may need to be some education for the resident as well. If we can mediate and diffuse these conflict moments, then overall it is going to help us foster a culture of neutral, a culture of just getting along, a warm and loving environment, which is so important to not only our residents, but also as staff members. Third principle is facility characteristics. What options of amenities do residents have within our facility? Is there a swimming pool, a gym, a pool hall? What types of activities can the facility offer our member on site? What is the culture like within the facility? Are holidays celebrated? What type of culture and an everyday perspective is offered? Do people generally get along? Do we see lots of smiles and warmth when we walk in the door? Or is everybody just walking around kind of grumpy and upset with life? Is the residence pet friendly? A lot of our members may be widowed. All they have for companionship is their cat or dog or some sort of pet. Are we going to be able to assist our resident or future resident with the health of this animal? Or are we going to require that that animal be taken away? It has been shown in many studies that having a pet not only can lower blood pressure and provide better overall heart health, but also just an overall better quality of life. There is just that companionship that can keep our residents going. They rely on their pets. What kind of hobbies are offered? Is there a knitting club? Are there opportunities for residents to explore new different types of hobbies? Anything that someone could think of, whether it's board game day or classic car shows or movie festivals within the facility. What types of hobbies can we keep our residents interested in, and can we offer those often enough to our residents? What type of culture can facilitate hobbies that get our residents active and going and happy and can foster new friendships? What type of entertainment do we offer? That kind of goes along with hobbies that are offered. Again, it could be a classic film festival night that's offered every month, or different types of outings related to certain entertainments. Do they bring entertainment into the facility? Is there a children's choir maybe offered for Christmas carols? Or is the facility able to foster some sort of charity drive where the residents are involved in packing bags for the homeless? I know that's typically not an entertainment thing, but it could be something that is offered for our residents to utilize their time and to feel productive. And that all goes towards their feeling of autonomy and independence. So entertainment is also extremely important. Are we fostering entertainment opportunities that can involve the family? If the facility offers a Thanksgiving meal, is the family invited to attend and have Thanksgiving with their loved one? Planned outings also go along with entertainment and hobbies that are offered. So planned outings could be something that takes an interest in our demographic population of the facility. Is there a World War II monument somewhere nearby that can be visited by the residents near Veterans Day? Is there a sort of film festival in the nearby town that residents would have the opportunity to go to? These planned outings are so important for our residents because it gives them an opportunity to still have life outside the actual walls of the facility. We don't ever want to think of their lives solely contained indoors. We want to be able to take them out if they want to go hiking or walk on a trail during the fall and just go leafing, see different colors. We want to be able to plan outings that will coincide with entertainment, hobbies that are offered, and just overall go with whatever our residents are interested in. And will people who are wheelchair bound or have mobility issues be able to go on these outings? So it may take a little bit of actual planning and facilitating, but will our mobility handicapped individuals be able to attend these outings? Because we want to make sure we are as inclusive as possible. And finally, transportation services. Do we offer a grocery ride where residents can get a ride to the grocery store and pick up whatever they're needing and then get a ride back? Or even transportation to doctor's appointments. We need to be aware that a lot of times our residents may not be able to drive anymore, but they're certainly able to navigate their way to a doctor's office or a grocery store or the mall if they want to go shopping. So transportation services is equally as important. And again, it may take a little bit of planning, especially for our individuals who are mobility handicapped. They use a walker, they use a wheelchair, things of that nature. So again, it is important that we are looking at characteristics of our facility to try and include our members' needs, wants, and desires. So what are some signs and symptoms of chronic conditions in our residents? We know that as we age, certain health conditions can certainly worsen. And although people are more than able to adapt and maintain and live with these conditions, we want to be able to notice any change within our residents. So a common condition that we may see is a chronic respiratory condition such as COPD or emphysema, even something as simple as a cold. Our resident may appear to have some shortness of breath. We may witness a resident struggling to breathe as they walk to the dining room for their meal, and they may have a flushed face. We may also take notice if a resident is on oxygen and then they suddenly become short of breath. We may want to check that oxygen tank and see if they are out. Another common sign is fatigue. And we all know, as our older population loves to nap, but overall, abnormal fatigue can be an indication of anemia, diabetes, and simply just the aging process. Something that you may see is a resident falling asleep during meals, or perhaps falling asleep during an activity that they actually really love, or like going to a church service or watching a movie with friends. Another sign could be cold. This can be an indication of anemia. Many of our elderly are always cold. A resident may be abnormally cold for them in the time of year. If we are seeing one of our residents putting on multiple layers of clothing and it's the dead heat of summer, we may wonder what's going on. If they're chronically complaining of the cold, then that's something that we may want to take note of as staff. Another sign and symptom that may be common in our residents is the loss of appetite. Now, this can mean many, many different things, but what I want to focus on is that this can be a big indicator of depressive symptoms in our residents. Residents may not finish their meals, they may refuse to come out of their room to go to meals, and they may just not want to eat. This is something that we can certainly have a direct impact on. We can speak with our residents about any issues or thoughts that they're having. We can simply take the time to sit with them during a meal. But it's something that staff should take notice of. It is important. And as we get to know our residents, we're going to learn what their baseline is. If they're typically cold or if they have a chronic cough, if you as the staff member are observant, you will realize when the resident is out of their normal state of being. So what will we do with these? We are going to notify the family. We are going to talk to the resident. We just need to remain observant, get to know our residents, know their baselines, and that way we can tell when they're out of their norm and hopefully address that before it becomes anything much more serious. So keep in mind shortness of breath, abnormal fatigue, abnormal cold, and loss of appetite. So what does everything that we have talked about have to do with our residents? We want to be able to maintain as much privacy and autonomy as possible for our residents, helping them keep their personal routines, their hobbies, and being able to perform those routines and hobbies in a safe and secure environment. This also facilitates opportunities for residents to make new friends. So we want to be as nitpicky as possible on a resident's routine, and not by inserting ourselves rudely into it, but simply by observing. Is there any way that we can assist them in completing their daily routine while maintaining that independence and autonomy? I go back to the example of wheeling the resident into the bathroom and the resident performing their morning or evening routine. We are simply assisting with such a small little nitpicky thing. And it means so much to our residents, because if we are able to help with that small thing, such as wheeling them into the bathroom, they are not expending energy by doing that task, and therefore are able to put their energy towards more fun activities within the facility. We can also encourage them to pick out their clothing, like discussed earlier, and all we are doing is simply assisting them in getting dressed. Or maybe they're able to dress themselves. We just need to help them get their socks and shoes on. By observing a resident's routines, we can find these little niches where we can insert ourselves and help the resident conserve energy, but also foster their independence and autonomy. That is extremely important to all of our residents. We want to maintain visiting hours. So when can family and friends come and visit their loved one? We want to make sure that we are able to facilitate any type of visitation from loved ones. And now, if family is far away and they drive all night and they come outside of visiting hours, are we going to turn them away? Hopefully not, because we want to be able to maintain that relationship between our residents and their family and friends that still live out in the town or across the country. So having appropriate visiting hours for all of the residents is extremely important. And I thought this quote was pretty good here. There are friends, there's family, and then there are friends who become family. And those are the kind of relationships that we want to keep evolving within our facility, whether the friends and family are living nearby, friends are in the facility, or they're outside. We want to make sure that we can keep everyone together. What does all of this have to do with us as staff in these facilities? Well, we want to focus on quality of life. And to do this, we need to look at the principles, we need to look at signs and symptoms, everything that we have discussed. On this particular point, I want to focus and hone in on depression. As we age, our severe chronic health conditions can become so much more common in our older population. A large percentage of our older population also suffers from chronic depression. Why is that? It's because they can no longer do the things that they used to do. So how do we help? We focus on those little nitpicky observations where we can help them develop a sense of autonomy and independence, even though we may be wheeling them into the bathroom or helping them pick out clothing. We need to do anything that we possibly can to avoid our residents becoming depressed or experiencing depressive symptoms. Now, that's not to say that it's never going to happen. Everybody goes through mood swings and we all have things happen in life. But if we can develop a good relationship with our residents to where they're feeling comfortable, perhaps they might be comfortable enough to talk with us, to tell us the feelings that they're experiencing, or if they're reminiscing and missing the days where they used to be able to drive or ride horses or whatever it is that they used to do. And we are not going to focus on the fact that they can no longer do those things. We are going to focus on their quality of life now. We are going to remind them of how much fun they have at knitting club, or how much they enjoy the arts and crafts and the different activities and entertainment options that they have now in their life as they have transitioned into their golden years. Round out our presentation for today, we are going to look at the philosophy of quality of life. And we mentioned previously that that's absolutely the factor that we want to focus on. So we're going to combine the definitions and principles discussed throughout this presentation to assure the best quality of life for our residents as possible. We're going to get to know our residents individually. We're going to cater to them as much as possible to learn what each person likes and dislikes, what they need, what they can do for themselves, and some hopes and even dreams that our residents may have. We're going to do this because we want to anticipate the needs and desires of our residents. We want to anticipate any needs that they may have in the future as they continue to age or go through a hard experience, whether it's a death of a friend or loved one or the worsening of a chronic health condition. So to do that, we always need to remain observant and kind. Our residents deserve the best that we can give them. I want you to look at it from our residents' perspective. They have experienced loss of independence, and now they're dependent on someone else to some degree. How can we still give them a full life and keep them happy in their life? I ask you to remember the story of our grandmother from the beginning of the presentation. She did find her new home, and she did enjoy the rest of her days there with her husband. They enjoyed playing games with staff and residents together. They enjoyed going to church services and seeing choir come in. There was even local Girl Scout and Boy Scout troops that would come in and do arts and crafts with them. They enjoyed celebrating silly holidays like National Elvis Day and National Pizza Day. So they enjoyed their golden years with a smile on their face every day. And that's exactly what our residents deserve.